Today you'll need your Bibles. I know a rare occasion at church you might need your Bible. It's like asking you to bring your math book to math class. It doesn't make any sense. But we're doing it anyway. So, for a lot of you, I have a hard time doing two things at once. So let me get this on and then we'll talk to you about how to be correct. Okay? Hello? Check. Okay, cool. I know this is something that most of you seniors are familiar with. Might be something that some of you juniors are familiar with. But that's the idea of getting into college. Now, let's say, for argument's sake, that you all just applied to my college. It's called Christopher College. Very hard to get into because it doesn't exist. So that's besides the point. Then it did exist. And you're a group of, 50 people in here? Let's say, of you 50, I accept 2. Okay? So your chances are 1 in 25. All right? If you couldn't do that math just now, you're probably not getting in. Okay? That's neither here nor there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for your transcript. You know, a transcript, what it does is it gives the institution that you're applying to an accurate understanding of what you are proficient and deficient in. Okay? So you hand them your report card, you hand them your transcript, they look at it, and they see math, A, Spanish, A, geometry, A, physical education, A, English, F. Okay? Now, what that does, because we have a system by which we can grade, by which we can authenticate, by which we can understand and validate intelligence and work, basically, we can tell you here at Christopher College that if you gave me a transcript that was F, and your F was in English, because no one learned you to spoke good, I would tell you, if you want to get into the college that I run, you need to work on what subject? English. It's easy. It's elementary. If any of you said the other school subject, count yourself out of the school too, because that was just ridiculous. It was very clear it should have been English. Okay? Here's the problem. As believers, we have no system. We have no system that tells us how we're doing spiritually, the health of each other. And so we use a lot of words that we don't know how to validate them. We don't know how to equate them. It doesn't mean anything. Right? So we go, hey, how's your walk with Jesus? Good. Oh, okay. Like an A plus, F. If I told you to validate that response, what do you mean by good? We wouldn't know how to do it. Right? We have no system. If you call yourself a healthy Christian, humans have this weird thing where everything is good until it becomes Hitler. That it's bad. And by that, you guys might have heard this before. I have girls that will come into my office or whatever, or they'll be crying, and so Chance and I'll be sitting there, and we'll go, hey, what happened? And they'll be like, well, my boyfriend, he said he was going to stop doing this, and then he started drinking and smoking, and he shot my dog, and he cheated on me with 18 other people in one night, and then and all this stuff happened, and he did, and I go, oh, okay. So what are you going to do? I don't know, I think we'll give him a second chance, and wait, what? And they say this phrase, they go, I think that inside he's a good person. That's right, that's what we say. Have you ever heard someone say, they're just a bad person, they're bad, okay? We don't know how to validate that. We just go, they do bad stuff, but they're really a good person. Listen, first of all, a person is nothing but what they do, okay? It doesn't freaking matter what's inside of them if what they choose to do is bad. They are therefore bad, okay? There's no other way about it. We all have the choices in us. We all have quote-unquote good in us. What comes out of us is what differentiates us, okay? You can go both sides of the whole Holocaust thing. Hitler was basically a good person. No, Hitler was a Nazi crackface, okay? There's no two ways about it, right? So we have to stop validating that in ourselves too and go, let's take an honest look at who we are, how we relate to Jesus, and how we are doing in this Christian walk. Hopefully, just like with your grades, you can look at that and you can go, by the end of this year, if you're graduating this year, or by the end of next year, if you're graduating next year, I want to move this D or C to an A. Okay? Likewise, if you have A's and A pluses, you can go, I'm going to use this to help others. I'm proficient in this. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a talk on spiritual maturity and spiritual immaturity. Then I'm going to give you 5 things. I'm going to ask you to give yourself a letter grade on them. So it'll be kind of fun, interactive kind of stuff. Now, the tricky part about giving yourself a letter grade is that a lot of human beings lack what's called self-awareness. Okay? That is an awareness of self. Right? It's for the same reason that you get a guy out there that's, he's like playing basketball and stuff like that. He's all, Drano, like 40 feet away, and he misses it completely. He's all, bummer, sucks, having an off day. But every time you ever watch him play, he's having an off day. Right? And he's the last one picked every time, even if there's someone that only has all they have is one arm, no legs, he's still the last one picked. He's that bad. Okay? And yet when you ask him, he's like, that's pretty good. Probably like, I'm misunderstood out here. People don't understand my game, but I'm really good. Right? You look at him and you're like, are you insane? Right? Like people, they've tried for American Idol, you're like, did no one ever tell you you're awful? No one ever told you that, huh? Because that's why you're up here. Because if you knew, you wouldn't be doing this, hopefully. So the problem with self-awareness is if we don't have it, we can grade ourselves A. And without someone checking or holding us accountable, we might finish our life thinking that all these categories we are completely proficient in, while the world around us is going, you are not a good person. Okay? And as a Christian, you are not a close follower of Jesus based on your lifestyle. So, when you give yourself these grades, here's my challenge to you. Whether it's hopefully it's your small group leader. If you're not in a small group, we encourage you guys to get in one. That's the basis of everything we do. We come to sit in rows to learn about stuff, but we sit in circles to do life together. That is what we do during the middle of the week. Small groups, everyone should be in one. Most of us are, but that isn't here or there. Okay? Check with someone that you respect, that is older than you, who you want to be like, and ask them, show them your list, and just go, give myself an A. They might need to go, that's really bad. Like, that's really off. In other areas, you might go, I give myself a D, and you might go, you know what, I've seen you do this well. So you check with them and let them be that catalyst that says, this is correct, you really need to work on this, you grade yourself accurately on this. Okay? But we'll get to that grading here in a second. To start off with, I'm going to show you a couple things on spiritual maturity. If you went to the weekend, some of this is going to sound familiar, but it's only for a few minutes. Just stick with me on this one. The first question you need to ask yourself before we even dive into grading ourselves is, how do I relate to God? One of the most important features that distinguishes an immature believer from a mature believer is how they relate to God. Not solely, but primarily. What is the primary way that we relate to God? Most people, God bless me all this whole week. I've been sick all week, so if I cough, just think of it as a happy little pause. Anyone else have weekend Ebola? Yeah. Too much time spent together, not enough sleep, a lot of love. Okay, cool. So, a primary way that we relate to God. So, we've gotten this little phrase in Christianity that we ask people. We say, hey, how are you feeling about God today? Or worship leaders, right? They start playing. They're like, hey, how is everyone feeling today? Good. Okay, God doesn't give a crap. He doesn't care. Okay? You find me one place in Scripture where Jesus says, dear children, my utmost importance is that you like me. If you don't like me and everything that I do, it will make me very sad. I'll be very upset. Okay? Primarily, we should not follow our heart to get to God. Okay? There are other belief systems, okay, in the world today, other churches, other religions that will say the way that you know that our God is because you're going to feel Him. Okay? It's called a burning in your bosom. That's literally what they call it. Okay? You're going to feel this burning in your bosom, and it's going to tell you that our God is really God. It's the Mormon church. Okay? I don't know if you're going to do it. But that's it here or there. And I'm not bashing the Mormons or anything else like that. I'm telling you, their belief system, at their core, they say, do you feel like God is real? Do you have that? When you read the Book of Mormon, do you get a burning in your bosom? Okay? Every time I call the Mormon church hotline or whatever, I always try to talk to them about stuff, and they always just ask me, did you feel a burning in your bosom? And I'm like, I ate some bad pizza yesterday. They're like, no, not that, something else. And I'm like, no, I didn't feel that. And they go, well, read it again. And once you read it and you feel that burning, you'll know that it's true. Here's the problem with feeling-based emotion when you relate to God. Jeremiah 17, verse 9. If you have your Bibles, you can turn to that. If not, just write it in your margin. Jeremiah 17, verse 9. Ladies especially, guys secondarily, but for a lot of you guys, mark this too strongly. Jeremiah 17, verse 9. Jeremiah. It's towards the front of your Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Jeremiah is later. On page 1289 in my Bible. It's not going to help you, but that is either here or there. Jeremiah chapter 17. You have a table of contents at the beginning of your Bible. You need that. If your neighbor found it, call them a nerd and look on with them. Nerd found it, Jesus. Loser. Just kidding. Alright, listen to this. This is Jeremiah. This is the prophet of God, which means he's the mouthpiece of God. In the Old Testament, God didn't necessarily always write down stuff and give it to people. He sent people to go be truth tellers to his people. He sent people to go be him to the people. And here's what he speaks through Jeremiah the prophet. The heart, the seat of emotion, the feeling vessel of your body is this. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Who can understand it? The heart, that thing that you are using to make your life choices, the thing that you're using to relate to God, there's something that I should warn you about. It is the most deceitful thing that you possess in yourself. The wave of the heart is this and that. It ebbs and flows. It feels and it loses feeling. If you fall in love with someone through emotion, you will fall out of love with someone the next week or however it's going to go. If at the heart of love is your feeling, you're never going to get anywhere in life. Okay? And some of you guys have parents. I know that I have parents that at certain times they'd be like, I don't feel like I'm in love with you anymore. That's not what love is. Love is not feeling based. It is not driven by feelings. Okay? If it's driven by feelings, again, you're going to get that ebb and that flow. You hear people say some dumb crap, man. Like, especially in high school. I said this. The heart wants what it wants. Or, this is bigger than us. The heart wants what it wants. This whole thing is just bigger than us. You don't choose who you love. B to the S to the crap. None of that is true. Okay? The heart wants what. That doesn't make any sense. If it did, and we followed that logic, here's what we would do. I would call my wife and I'd be like, hey baby, I was going to speak at this camp up here. I was walking by and there was this girl and she was really pretty. She was like 24, 25, really nice. And the heart wants what it wants. So I'm going to go ahead and pack up my stuff. And I don't plan on being here for more than 2 weeks. She wasn't very interesting. But the heart does want what it wants. And it's just bigger than us. And my wife was like, you're right. The heart wants what it wants. So true. This is bigger than us. It's just, we can't. It's this hungry beast love. And it seeks someone. It's so much bullcrap. That's not what love is. The heart doesn't want what it wants. The heart wants what you tell it to want. Okay? And what you perpetuate, your heart will grow towards. Alright? Your heart does nothing. You guys know that? Your heart doesn't do anything. Okay? It's an ancient understanding thinking that this does something. Why? Because when we love someone, it can create a cramp in our arteries, and so it feels like our heart is hurting. But your heart does nothing. It's here. Your love is based here. Your quote-unquote love, everything's from your brain. Okay? Your brain tells your body how to react. Your brain tells your brain what to think. Your brain tells your brain when to send endorphins. Your brain tells your brain when to say dumb crap like the heart wants what it wants. Okay? Your heart doesn't. Your heart just beats. That's all it does. Just whatever. Probably slower for some of you. Okay? But that's neither here nor there. Right? The heart does nothing. Okay? The brain does it. we put Jesus with our emotions and we follow him out of our heart, which is deceitful above all else, we're going to have a very skewed relationship with the Most High. Because we have a skewed relationship with the boyfriends and the girlfriends that we have because it's emotion-based. So we think God wants a relationship. Well, my emotional relationship with this person is whether or not I like them, is how much we hang out. My love for them is all based on how high I feel towards them. That's what love is to them. So love towards God is going to be the same thing. God's going, that's not love at all. You missed it. Okay? So we don't lead in feelings towards God. If we let in feelings towards God, your family starts to have a fight and you get pissed off at God and you go, I don't feel close to God right now. And you walk away and do your little things, right? All the time. That is not helpful. We can't associate those two. Okay? The second way that we relate to God, we shouldn't relate to God, but some of us do relate to God. I know that I did for a big section of my life. So number one is through feelings. Number two is through experience. Okay? Ask yourself this question. Do I have an experiential understanding of God? Do I have an experiential understanding of God? Which means I have interpreted and related to God based on what I have experienced in my life. God is what he has done in my life and nothing else. Okay? So when you make that argument towards someone, you're like, look, God, you guys should really follow God. Okay, I'm trying to disciple you guys right now. I really think you should follow him because he made a big change in my life. Before God, I was smoking, drinking, having sex with everything, and now I don't. God changed my life. Well, let me tell you this story. It's a true story. There's a man, and he was running a prostitution ring. He was a drug dealer, went to jail, different accounts of murder and everything else like that. While he was in jail, an angel showed up to him. This angel told him to stop what he was doing. So he has this come to God moment where he lets go of all that stuff. He doesn't do it anymore. And he instead starts building churches, and they pop up all over New York City, basically revitalizing the belief in God in this whole region of the country. Okay, so you're like, oh, that's a great story. That's another, yay God, go Jesus moment. Yeah, no. His name is Malcolm X, and his movement was for the Nation of Islam, not for Christianity. Okay? So his movement from this revelation that he had in prison was to start this, and Malcolm X did some great things for civil rights. I'm not talking about that stuff at all. I'm talking about his belief in Islam changed his life. So if your God is nothing but a life changer, and that's his job, and if he hasn't changed my life, I'm not going to believe in him. He changed your life. This is the same argument that can take place. I'm like, hey Connor, what do you believe in? He's like, I believe in that piano right there. I'm like, what? He's like, that's my God. I'm like, Connor, what do you mean it's your God? He's like, listen, before the piano, I was smoking, drinking, all this, the whole nine. And then I started playing piano. And it took up all my time, and now I've stopped. And I go, but you can't have a piano as a God. Why not? He changed my life. Why do you believe in God? Well, he changed my life. Malcolm X, why do you believe in Allah? Because he changed my life. Connor, why do you believe in piano? Because it changed my life. It's the same argument. Okay? We can't have an experiential understanding of God because everyone's experiences are different. Everyone's God can be a different thing. Someone can live a life godless, and we would say it wouldn't be as fulfilled of a life. But when they get to the end, they can have a better marriage than a Christian. They can have better kids than a Christian. All this other stuff can take place, and I can't argue experience. The way that we relate to God, not through feelings, not through experience, is our third one. That is through knowledge. We relate to him through knowledge. Okay? Knowledge is different than intellect. All right? So when I say we relate to God through knowledge, doesn't mean scientific facts. If you get all hyped up on scientific facts, you can come to M12. I'm a nerd with that kind of stuff too. You want to know the different cosmological arguments for the existence of God, or the teleological argument through Athanasia for the reason that God exists, and astrophysics and the way that science lines up with biology. We'll get there. We'll have that discussion in M12. I don't mean that has to be the seat of your belief system. I'm saying the stuff that we know is the root of Christianity should be for a mature Christian. What do we know about God? We know this. This is what we know. Is that 2,000 years ago, a virgin gave birth to a kid in a peasant village of Bethlehem in a feeding manger. That kid, after 30 years of doing his father's trade as a tekton, or a quarry worker, or a carpenter, as you would call it, declared himself God. Many miracles were done in the presence of Jesus, including resurrection of children, including the healing of the lame, blind, sick, deaf, mute, the whole nine. Demons were cast out. The whole Roman calendar changed because of this guy. Okay? He was a world changer. And he claimed that he was God. And he said, I will prove it, because if you try to kill me, God doesn't die. And the Romans go, well, we're going to try anyway. So the Romans put him on a cross. He dies with the Roman execution. Rome's good at execution, by the way. If you didn't know that, you should know. Rome's very good at killing people. Then they put him in a tomb, a borrowed tomb from a man named Joseph of Arimathea. He sits in there for 3 days. So even if he wasn't dead on the cross, which he was, because they pierced his side and the pericardial sac had ruptured, so the blood and water flowed separately, they're Rome. They know how to kill people. 3 days he's bleeding out, so he's now super dead. Okay? He was already dead on the cross, so don't get that whole idea in your head. After 3 days, he comes back to life. He's seen by more than 400 people, including his captors, including Roman guard, including the Pharisees, including everyone that wanted him dead. They saw him after he died. That's what we know. And we know that if he claims to be God and he fulfilled his promises of being God, and he has offered us a promise of salvation, then I'm going to hang my hat on that. Not on the feelings that I have in my everyday life, on the experiences that I've experienced, but on that. When my family goes to crap and everything breaks apart and my girlfriend cheats on me and I'm not getting the right grades and someone steals my car and someone betrays me and she was with my best friend and she posts about it on Twitter, when all this crap happens and I relate God to experience or feeling, God gets mumbled in with my little collage of life. And I go, God, you're a betrayer. God, if you really loved me, you would, if you really, and he becomes this mumbled mess. But our feelings and experiences remain over here. And my knowledge remains over here. So even when my family goes to crap and everything else hits the fan, I still walk over and I go, but no matter what happens or what I experience, there was a Jewish carpenter who 2,000 years ago claimed to be God and claims he could become victorious over death, and he did it. And I get to play a part in the resurrection of that man. No matter what happens, that is true. But I don't feel this way. It doesn't matter. That's true. But what about it? Doesn't matter. That's true. We know God. The root of our belief system is not our feeling or our experience. It is our knowledge that these events took place. Whether you believe he was Messiah or not, archaeology even is going to tell you there was a man named Jesus of Nazareth who came, was put to death by Romans, and was seen again. Was he God? I don't know. I do know. But was he God? That's for you to decide. Okay? If a man comes, proclaims to be God, dies by Roman hands, 3 days later is seen again, and he's not God, you still have to give an account for what you think he is. That question will be asked. It's on the test. Okay? So now that we've gotten that, not through feelings or experience, but through knowledge. Here your Bible's open to 2 Timothy chapter 4. If you just have your smartphones, you want to Google it, just write 2 Tim 4, and it'll pop up. 2 Timothy chapter 4. I'm going to have to kind of race through this. So I'm going to start right now. If you guys just write in your margins, you can look it up later if you want. I promise I'm not going to lie. I charge you in the presence of God and of Jesus Christ, who is the judge of the living and the dead, and by his appearing and his kingdom, preach the word, be ready in season and out of season, to correct, rebuke, which means to tell them to stop, and exhort with complete patience and teaching. For the time is coming, this is key. For the time is coming when people will not endure sound doctrine, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. Okay? So, what is being prophesied right here is Paul is saying, guess what, Christians? There's a time coming where people aren't going to give a rip if it's archaeologically true or not. They are going to base their belief system on their passions and the way it makes them feel. Okay? So if I told you there are 7 noble truths in order to reach nirvana, And you're like, yeah, that makes me feel good. He's saying what's going to happen is no matter if it's true or not, if there's any history or if it was created by a group of people in the ancient Near East 500 years ago, they're just going to follow it. And it's just, Christians, they're not even going to ask you if it's true or not. They're just going to say, well, you do what you want and I do what I want. And when you go, there's no way this took place. And there's no way that this happened. There's no way. At the end of the day, people aren't caring anymore. Okay? Now, I know some of you guys, you know Mormons or you are Mormon, whatever it's going to be. But I wrote my thesis paper on Mormonism. So it's kind of like my go-to, because I know more about it than any human being ever should, because it's what I studied. Okay? I had to write this whole thing. I had to apologize for it, which means defend it. I didn't say sorry. Apology means to defend. Okay? But, like, Joseph Smith was tried for plagiarism. Did you guys know that? Because someone 20 years before wrote the same exact book of Jesus coming to America and teaching, and the Nephites, and not the Nephites, the Lamanites. Someone already wrote that book. And they found the book, and they said, Joseph Smith, you just wrote the same story that this other guy wrote. He got put on trial. He lost. He had to pay the guy for writing the same book. And yet there's a whole belief system based on it. And it's right. There's a time that's coming where no one's going to care. It feels good for them. Their passions are in it, so they're going to do it. It's important for us to understand. That's the civilization that we live in right now. With that, now that we understand a little bit more about what it means to be mature, not basing it on experience and emotion, but instead on knowledge, here's your grading scale, okay? Any letter grade you want. You can make up one if you want, but I wouldn't. That would be confusing. I'm going to give you 5 topics. I'm going to explain to you very briefly what they are. Then I'm going to give you yourself a grade. Okay? Number 1, I invest in Christian community. I invest in Christian community. Now, there's a difference between I attend Christian community and I invest in it. Okay? An investment means whether it's difficult or I don't want to right now, I still put it in. I put the money in, if you're talking about financial investment. And then over time, that will accrue interest, and then what I take out will be greater than the sum that I put in. Okay? Example, I was on Wheel of Fortune, and you guys probably saw that, life-changing, right? I won $10,200. Now, after Uncle Sam gets his cut, he's all, I'll take half, right? I'm left with this $5,000, $6,000 chunk. Now, what I want to do is I want to just get a new car. But I don't need a new car. So I take that money and I put it into a financial firm, and that financial firm is going to put it into stocks and bonds and CDs and gold and silver and all other stuff, and it's going to accrue interest. Okay, it's going to get bigger over the years. So I let it go. It hurts. I want to spend it. I don't want to necessarily invest in it all the time. But when I'm 40 and Peyton's about to go to college, I can go, let's go look at this. Holy crap. That $5,000 has turned into $50,000, and now my kid can go to whatever college he wants to go to. So I invest now in order to reap the benefit later. That's what investing is. It's called delayed gratification. And that is what it means to have a Christian community. It means whether I want to or not, whether I'm always feeling it or not, I put in my time with other Christian people. Because at some point, I'm going to need to write a check. And I'm going to need to get that check cashed by my Christian community. And if I haven't invested in, they're not going to know how to help me. They're not going to know where I've been. And they're not going to know anything about my life. Okay? I have a group of guys, about 20 of them, 22 of them, that come over to my house every freaking week. Even weeks when I don't want them to come over. Okay? But they're there. Sometimes we don't even have a group, and Wyatt still shows up, whoever Wyatt is. For some reason, he just always wants to be there. So, but if those guys started missing, we would immediately notice, we would immediately ask, and we would immediately understand where they're coming from, because they've been there. Now, if you're in and out, you show up once every 6 months, like, guys, I'm going through a lot of crap. First of all, we're going to go, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? What do we do? What are we supposed to do with you? I don't know how you live. I don't know how you operate. I don't know your friends groups. I don't know anything. So how am I supposed to help? So when you go to write that check, the check's going to bounce, and everyone's going to go, like, who are you? We'll try the best we can, but we don't know. What do we do? That's why it's important, because someday, even if it's not during high school, you'll need to write that check. And when that check clears, you'll understand that even those weeks where you were already in your pajamas and it was time for small group, and you were already halfway into The Bachelor because you DVR'd it from Monday, still get your butt up and you go invest, because that investment will need to be taken out someday. Okay? And not just in your friends, but you invest in yourself. Anytime you can be around people, Proverbs 17:27 says, "For iron, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another." When you spend time with other people, like-minded people, you will become stronger. Okay? When you constantly put a sharp knife with something dull, it gets duller. When you rub that sharp knife on something that can match its strength, it becomes sharper. That's where we spend time together. Number one, I invest in Christian community. Give yourself a letter grade on that one. How well do you do that? Number two, I engage in authentic worship. Okay? Key words, engage. Doesn't mean I sit there. Doesn't mean I'm present while other people worship. I engage in authentic worship. Here's one of these things where 20 years ago the church was becoming feminized because guys stopped coming to church, because guys started writing. Guys like, there's really weird movement in the church. It's the feminization of the church. But all the songwriters started thinking, you want to know who buys CDs more? Women buy more CDs than men buy CDs. So we're going to start tuning our music towards women. So we started getting these songs that were very feminine sounding. Okay? Like, no, that one's awesome. Jealous is the third word of the song. It's like a sweet word. There's this one song called, I'm going to think of it.
The Secret Place.
Oh, Your Love is Extravagant. Your fragrance, it is intimate. I feel I'm moving to the rhythm of your grace. Your fragrance is intoxicating in our secret place. Your love is extravagant. And like, as a guy, you're just like, your fragrance is intimate? So guys were like, while you go to chick service, we're going to stay home and not go to chick service. We're going to watch football. Exactly, Sarah. So there was this big movement that happened where guys, it was called the man exodus of the church. They just started leaving in big numbers. And the church became catered to women because that was our only audience then. So the things that the church did, the places the church went, the things that the church talked about became geared towards women. Okay? There's now a shift. North Coast is one of the churches that's leading the way for the whole country, moving back towards getting males in church. Okay? Why? Are males more important souls than women? Absolutely not. But we want all people to come to a saving relationship. And if a man is called to lead his household along with the woman, and the man is checked out, that's going to raise a whole generation that isn't as in tune with what Christ wants to do in their life. Okay? Why do I say that? I say that because we still get this idea when people are singing that we go, well, I don't connect to God that way. Now, this is what we have to understand. God in Scripture tells us to worship Him. Now, worship can be a lot of things. It can be obedience. Worship is obedience. But worship is also through singing, through song. God says, I want you to sing to me. Now, we get the response. We think it's one of those, like, caveat things on the side. You know, if we're like, hey, I'll order, give me a BLT. And if you've got avocado, I'd love some avocado. We think of it as avocado. God's like, obey me, believe that I am God. And if you feel like it, go ahead and throw some worship in there. And we're like, I don't really connect that way. That's not it, okay? It's the T in the BLT. It is part of it, okay? It's part of the command, not part of the suggestion. He says, you will sing to me. Why? Because I'm worthy of it. 365, 24/7. There's not a day that goes by where I'm not worthy of your praise. So you praise whether you feel like it or not, okay? And it's not this guy going, I really want you to worship me. It's the God of angel armies, the commander-in-chief of the universe saying, I want you to sing to me. And you're like, well, it doesn't make sense to me. If I were God, listen, you're not, okay? And until you invent a universe and give life to dirt, I would suggest just following the guy who did that. And so when he says get baptized, you don't need to go, well, why? Why doesn't he make me do it? Shut up, okay? He says get baptized. But that doesn't do anything. It just put water on my head. No, just do it. Okay? It doesn't need to make sense. Communion, body, blood, right? The wafer and the... What I'm going to do, he just says do it. Okay? I don't feel like singing. Do it. Okay? It's not a suggestion. Right? Someday, when you get to heaven and you're sitting with him, he's going to look at you and he's going to go, I know you didn't want to, but you were obedient. And in the same vein that we go, I don't really feel like not murdering today. I know he told me to, and that's part of the whole commandment thing. But today I'm really feeling the whole murder thing. And so if God looked at me and was like, what did you do? You'd be like, today I didn't feel like obeying that commandment. When you don't sing, that's what you're saying. You're saying, today I didn't feel like obeying that commandment. Today I didn't feel like doing that. It's not a suggestion, okay? It is as integral to the BLT as the B, the L, and the T. It's not the extra avocado. It is part of the sandwich, okay? Do I engage in authentic worship? Number 3, I submit to godly correction. I submit to godly correction. Give yourself a letter grade. I submit to godly correction. I had a mentor in college, and his name was Dr. Ebel, not evil. That was a question. And at one point, I told him about my girlfriend that I'd had for 2.5 years throughout high school and the beginning of college. And I told him about how I liked being with her because she was always like a shoulder to cry on. Not that I cried, but it is neither there. But she kind of became like a broken couch. It was really comfortable. It was easy to hang out with her. She always made me feel good about myself. He's like, well, you need to break up with her. And I was like, why? He's like, well, you don't cherish her. You're not loving her. You're not protecting her or anything. You're just using her because she likes you a lot and she knows that, or you know that she'll never leave you or anything. So you're playing it safe and you're not really caring for her. And I'm like, you're right. So I broke up with her. Okay? And then many months, 14 months later, I'm talking to him and I'm like, you know, I don't think I'm really going to date anyone because I'm going to go away to college. I was going to go play for Southern Utah University. That was there. So I was graduating college to go to another college to pursue my master's in sex therapy. There's a lot of things you don't know about me, but we'll get there at some point. And in that, I'm like, I'm not going to start dating anyone. What if it gets all messy and broken and everything? And Eva was like, you don't trust yourself even to take care of her, do you? And I'd become scared. He goes, I want you to ask her out. So I did. Her name was Paige Finley. And that is who I married here today. And if I didn't submit to that godly correction going, I want to be like you someday. And here's the caveat. If your small group leader, your mentor, you don't want to be like them, get a new one. Okay? If you don't want to be like them, walk away. The mentor should play this role. I want to be like them. Therefore, if they're making that decision, I want to make that decision. Okay? If I want to play basketball like Kobe Bryant, and he says, don't shoot like this, I don't go, good suggestion. No, I go, well, I want to be as good as you, so I'm going to shoot correctly. That's what the purpose of mentorship is. If you don't like your mentor, get a new one. If you don't respect them, get a new one. If you don't want to be like them, get a new one. If you do, and you know that they love you, listen. Don't argue. Don't then run it through your paradigm. Just do it. Okay? Give yourself a grade on that one. Number 4, I pour into the next generation. So if I'm being mentored, I also mentor somebody else. Ladies, are you taking younger ladies out to coffee? Are you helping them out with stuff? Are you talking them through situations? Are you teaching them what you've learned? Guys, are you doing the same thing? Are you including the younger generation in what you're talking about? Are you putting other people in what you're talking about? Are you inviting them? Last but not least, I confidently understand and can articulate exactly what I believe. I confidently understand and can articulate exactly what I believe. This is the 5th one, maybe of the most importance besides the godly correction. I understand and can articulate whatever I said. What did I say? Exactly what I believe. Okay? Why is that important? Because if not, you're going to get hoodwinked. You're going to college, some guy's going to walk up to you and he's going to go, hey, what do you believe about, frick, I don't know, cocaine, right? You're like, well, I think cocaine's bad. You're like, well, why is cocaine bad? You're like, well, the Bible says it's bad. You're like, why do you listen to what the Bible says? You'll go, because God wrote the Bible. They're going to go, well, what if I don't believe God wrote the Bible? Well, he did. How do you know that? Because it says it in the Bible. So, if I don't believe that the Bible is true, you're going to prove that the Bible is true because God wrote it and it's written in the Bible. Yeah. How do you know that? God wrote it. How do you know he wrote it? What's in the Bible? It's a circular argument. Okay? 1 Peter 3:15 says this, always be prepared to give an account, a defense for why you believe what you believe. At least have an answer beyond, I'm a big moron who never understood this. Okay? Do yourself a favor. If this is the most important thing in your life and you don't get why you believe it, what are you doing? The most important question you can answer is, why do you believe this is true? If you don't know why you believe this is true, it's all for naught. Okay? This is what we base our belief system around. This is what we base our life around. And yet 90% of Christians, you go, why do you believe that's true? And they're like, God wrote it. Because I don't have a brain. Okay? Shut up. Have an answer for it. Okay? If you're in my small group, you were forced to memorize something that I wrote a long time ago about why we believe the Bible is true. Josh, can I put you on the spot?
Yeah.
Josh Cezanne is in my small group. Josh Cezanne, why do you believe the Bible is true?
I believe the Bible because it's a reliable collection of historical documents written by eyewitness accounts during the lifetime of other eyewitness accounts. Report supernatural events and fulfillment of specific prophecies, whose authors claim that their writings are divine, not human.
That's why you believe the Bible is true. So here's what comes down to it.
I don't know what this means.
That's what you say. This is the point. The point is, at least when someone asks why you believe in the Bible, he can go, boom. Okay? I've had people come up to me before and they go, hey, why does God hate gay people? And I go, first of all, you're an idiot. Second of all, he doesn't. Third of all, it doesn't say that in the Bible anywhere. And he goes, well, what does it say in the Bible? I said, well, this is what it says in the Bible. I said, God hates, he says God loves people. It's a love relationship that he has with them. What does it say about homosexuality? Well, here's the verses on homosexuality. Well, why do you believe that? Well, I believe it because I believe the Bible is true. Why is the Bible true? Boom. You want to know what he did? He walked away. He had no idea what to say. You can tell he's talked to 100 pastors in his life who all gave him the same stupid answer of the Bible is true. Feel it, it's a burning in your bosom. When you read it, hey, don't do that. Give something. If it's the most important thing in your life, at least have a response. That's what 1 Peter 3:15 is. So give yourselves a grade on that one too. Right now, how can you do it? Now show this report card. When you're in a small group, show it to your small group leader. Email it to them, whatever, and go, hey, where am I messing up? Where am I accurate? And how can I improve? Okay? That's what we're doing here. We want to improve. We don't just want to give you a bunch of BS about how great Jesus was and have it not influence our life. He's great. He gave us a great book to base our lives around. If we're not doing anything about it, we're just spiritual gluttony, okay? That's my challenge to you guys. Just like a transcript, point that out and get better at it. Fix it, okay? Love you guys, and I want this for you. That's what we're talking about this time. So, if you guys have any questions, you can talk to me. If not, we'll see you guys next week.